Welcome to your Health Reset, where we address the real root causes behind health issues today to get you rapid results on your health journey so you can be who you came here to be, mind, body, and spirit. I'm your host, Sinclair Kennally, survivor of complex chronic illness, expert on resolving root causes, and co-founder of Detox Rejuvenation and Meditation RX. Let's get started.
Welcome back to another talk on root causes, rapid results. I'm your host, Sinclair Kennally, and today I'm joined by the wonderful Dr. Jaban Moore, who has a very similar focus to our practice and a focus that's near and dear to our hearts. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with you, Jaban. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm always excited about anything that's going to get people rapid results, just because some of these topics, some of these things, mold, Lyme, parasites, they've been bothering people for a very long time, and everybody just wants to feel better.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you have such a great expertise focusing on your recent summits alone. I'd like to unpack a little bit more from there today. You had an industrial chemical summit, right? And a parasite summit earlier this year, right here on Health Means.
I did, yeah. And they've been phenomenal. Just my education coming from all the other docs that I got to interview. So I'm ready to just give you the streamlined deep dive into all these other docs' information too.
Awesome. Okay. I was going to ask you about your personal journey first, but I cannot resist. Let's ask then, what do you think the top learnings were that came out of each one of those summits for folks? Industrial chemicals and the parasites.
I love statistics. So I'm just going to go into a couple of those because it's incredible. You got to think there's more than 80,000 chemicals that are brought in to the United States, 80,000 chemicals. There's more than 200 pounds of chemicals per person in the United States than in the year. So there's more than my body weight of chemicals brought in every year that are toxic and harmful to me into this country. And the average female puts more than 12 different personal care products on every single day, most of which are full of chemicals. So chemicals are all around us. It's in our water supply. 163 million Americans are drinking radioactive water. So there's just a few statistics to tell you how much chemical toxicity is out there. And if you think I live in my house, I don't even go out, I'm a work from home person, I'm not using all this personal care stuff. The average home is 2, if not 3 times more toxic inside than it is outside, because you have off-gassing from your couch, your paint, the glue from the luxury vinyl planks that you put down on your floor, all the different things that are in your home are off-gassing. So I just have learned through the chemical toxicity stuff, if you're not doing something to create a safe space for you to live, I'm even creating a little thing for my clientele called the starter kit, right? Places to look to make sure that we have a safe environment, whether it's mercury amalgams in your mouth, toxins in your walls, what's in your water, what food to eat, because these are some of the key pieces. If we can have clean water, clean air, and clean food, that's going to be a massive step forward for most people on getting a clean environment. So that's the chemical toxicity piece. My other summit was parasites, which I was like, oh, parasites aren't a big problem. You're in the United States, you're in a westernized country. We don't have to worry about those, except 1 million people in the United States last year got Giardia, which is a parasite. 100 million people in the world each year are dealing with strongyloides, which is a nematode type parasite. The average population in the world will come in encounter with at least one parasite that can be diagnosed, like testable, diagnosable in their lifetime. So parasites are all over the place. This is not something that we're not coming into contact to. And the crazy thing is my test came back negative. I'm like, great. What did you test for? Oh, I went to the doc and he gave me a stool sample. Most doctors are thinking locally. So we're going to run a stool sample from our local area with parasites from our local area, except where does your food come from? Mexico, India, China, Sri Lanka, South America. It comes from all over the world. We're importing from everywhere. So all of your vegetables, fruits, meats are bringing parasites to us from everywhere. But there's no good parasite test anywhere. Statistically speaking, they're garbage. All the stool samples is just garbage. They're garbage.
You're speaking my language right now. You can go ahead and just say it. I think you're going to save so many people a lot of heartache and time, including the practitioners listening. So go for it.
Here's the facts. One, we're not testing for parasites from all around the world. We're just not. They're testing for 5 or 10 or maybe 15 parasites at once. Then there's thousands. Secondarily, they're testing only for ovum, most likely. Most stool samples are looking only for ovum. They're not looking for the full-size parasite that you laid on top of it because you wanted them to test that. Nope, they're not. They're moving that to the side. They're taking the poo and then they're going to look for eggs. That's all they're looking for. And then to get an appropriate test, you have to have it in the lab within an hour or so that whatever tissue you just gave them wouldn't break down. So that's just not going to happen. Not to mention parasites have life cycles, meaning they're not going to get pooped out except for one day or 1 week of a month. And they may be more active in the morning or night. So then we're talking, okay, if you even want to try to capture the parasites, you need to poop every single day, morning and night for 30 days, and then have somebody sample all of that, which is not going to happen. They do have other types of samples, though. They do have spinal taps. Don't recommend getting that. That comes with a whole host of other issues, but they're more accurate. And that would mean that you had a parasite in your cerebrospinal fluid, by the way. That's not a good thing. And just to give you how often parasites are in the body on autopsy, 100%. So 100 brains out of 100 brains done an autopsy of people who had MS found nematode parasites in their brain. By the way, just because I like Lyme disease too, 25% they found Lyme disease in there. And this was for MS, right? So this is a major problem that we're just missing on because testing is so poor. And there's this thought process that parasites don't exist in the Western world. And let's just go back 50 years. 50 years ago in the Midwest here, that's where I am, Kansas City, Missouri, farmers would say, here, I'm going to give this medication to my animals. And then they take a little bit themselves to deworm themselves a couple times a year. It was normal practice because we realized that, hey, my cat, dog, horse, cow, goat, whatever animal you have grows up in the same place you do. And guess what? The vet tells you to deworm them. And when you do, what do you see come out of them? Parasites. So if you're going to do it for your cat and dog, why wouldn't you do it for yourself? You live in the same place.
You're sleeping on your bed. They're kissing you. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're like, no, I'm clean, I wash my hands. Your dog doesn't. Your kids probably don't enough. And they're walking around your house. You walk with your shoes to your house. We are around parasites all the time and always. So it is a foregone conclusion that if you're going to run into a virus or a bacteria, you're going to run into parasites too. You might as well keep that on the list.
That's such a great point. So before I ask you to go any further in that, I have to clue the audience into your journey a little bit if they're not familiar with you. Why is this such a topic that's so passionate for you? Like, why does this matter so much to you? Tell us more about your journey.
So I have a combo of whys. And the first why was my mother was incredibly ill when I was growing up. She, for the time I was 10 years old, basically lived on the couch. At one point, she told me she was going to die. My dad was dyslexic. So she said, here, this is how you do the checkbook. And at that point, at 10 years old, that was like the turning point for me. I went from this little, for lack of a better word, hellion. I was in the principal's office every single day, probably going down the wrong path, to just like that. I was straight and narrow, never got in trouble again. I was going to be the man of the house to take care of my family and help out. And I didn't have siblings, but I felt that responsibility because my mother was so sick. And I watched her on the couch my entire life with chronic illness that was misdiagnosed, mismanaged. She was on 40 pills at one point, all medication. And it was because of just really poor management of health. And so that led me to, there should be something better. So I went and searched that. So I was going to be a doctor. I was going to help people. I was going to do better. And then I ended up in college with Lyme disease. And so my health started deteriorating out of no reason. I was a college All-American. I lost the fat off of me because I was a shot putter. I got to where I was ripped. I was eating healthy. I was sleeping. I was in chiro school. I was doing all the things I thought was right. I looked healthy, but I felt terrible. Ended up with erectile dysfunction and brain fog and knee pain. And I didn't know why. And no one had an answer. No one in functional medicine had an answer. No one in Western medicine had an answer. I'm going to conferences with all these functional medicine docs that were like, we figure it out. And they're just like, I don't know, take some L-arginine. And I'm like, that's a Band-Aid. What is the problem? And then I finally ran into Dr. Alan Lindsley, and I had to drive all the way up to Wisconsin. So I know what it's like for all of you out there to have to travel or find a doc in somewhere else, some other place, because you can't find someone local. And within a few weeks, he did some treating, and I just started coming back to life. I'm like, I'm 25. I should be vibrant. And I was 70 inside. And then a couple of weeks later, I'm like coming back to life. I'm able to work out. Joints weren't hurting as much. Erectile dysfunction was going away, which as a 25-year-old male is heartbreaking when you have that, because you're like, am I
Scary.
gonna have a family? Am I ever gonna have a relationship? I'm not the type of person that's, oh, I can just take a pill from that. No, that's not where I wanted to be. I wanted to be, yeah, I'm passionate because my mother went through it, and so many other people that I'm talking with, and I have people from around the world that I work with virtually, and their kids are translating for them. So I know what that kid feels like trying to help their parent. And then I personally know what it's like to have chronic illness. So for me, this is a pain to purpose situation. I know what it feels like. So I search every day. And when a client's not getting better, I'm laying in bed at night going, okay, what dot do I need to connect to figure out how to make this work?
So well said. Yeah, I think we all find this path the hard way. And I'm so glad we did, though. And I'm so glad that you turned this difficult path into something where you can actually help others, because there's so many people out there right now struggling with this stuff. Why do you think that is? Why do you think we're having this explosion of chronic illness today? Where, 4% of people in the 60s, 4% of adults were considered chronically ill versus 6 out of 10 Americans today.
There are so many reasons, but I'm going to lean into two of them right now. One, because I just did a summit on it, chemical toxicity summit, right? The number of chemicals that are being introduced into our daily lives is just astronomical. And it's crippling our body's ability to detoxify. And one of the ways that it does that is these chemicals are ionic metals. They are chemicals that get rid of your microbiome. So they're antibacterial that kill your microbiome. It's like glyphosate, which is a common pesticide. These things are in our food supply and our water. And when they get into our food supply and our water, they wipe out your normal gut flora. If you're not familiar with, that's why people take probiotics. That's why kombucha has been popular, because you need this gut flora. This gut flora helps you break down food. It helps you make neurotransmitters. It helps you to recover so that you can appropriately digest protein and get the different amino acids to your tissues so you can build muscle, you can repair joints and tendons. So without the microbiome, without these bacteria, we cease to exist. We don't function. Another part of it is that there is a massive amount of damage that you can see done to mitochondrial function. So if anybody wants to join me back in middle school and go back to the Krebs cycle, if you remember that term, we all probably bomb a little bit when we say that, because it's like this.
Oh, not the Krebs cycle.
You got to memorize all these little steps around this circle, but it's biochemistry. I'm like, oh my gosh, if that's broken, we don't make energy. So if your energy cycle for your car is broken, it means you can't put gas in it. When no gas goes in your car, it dies. So same thing for you. If you can't make the Krebs cycle work, your body shuts down. What does the energy do in your body? It allows you to have an immune function and repair, recover, think, all the things that we want to do. Without Krebs cycle, it breaks down. And when these chemical toxins get into your mitochondria, one of the things they do is they depolarize the electron transport chain, which doesn't allow energy to be produced. Another thing is they can damage the DNA in your mitochondria. So then that DNA doesn't give out the appropriate commands and signals for that pathway to function normally, or it mutates cells where they don't have the appropriate genetic expression. Things like MTHFR can happen, which is a common genetic expression that people know is now mutated for many. So when that happens, our bodies work at a lesser. You used to be able to get 400 horsepower out of your car, but it's old and breaking down. Now you only get 300. Same thing for your body. Your mitochondria are breaking down. It's not operating at nearly as high a level. So we're breaking down and getting things like cancer and MS and ALS and all these autoimmune diseases, because the mitochondria actually modulate, they control your immune system. So if your body now has got less of a threshold to function at, now it starts overreacting to things because it doesn't have the energy. So have you ever been so tired that you might have said something in a mean way to somebody because you're just tired? You're just like, leave me alone, because you just don't have the go. So your immune system now is just shoot first, ask questions later, because it doesn't have time to think, because it doesn't make energy appropriately. So these chemical toxicities are doing that to us. As our immune systems weaken, now we have more depression, we have more anxiety. But then we also don't fight Lyme disease, parasites. We don't fight mold toxicities as well. And this leads to further infectious processes happening to our body. That's why it's never one root cause anymore. It's always a multi-infectious, multi-toxic, just collaboration or complex that we're dealing with inside of our bodies. And parasites are actually the solution and the problem at the same time. So your body is so intelligent that it goes, hey, wait a minute. Parasites can carry 6 to 8 times their body weight in toxicity. I'm going to bring those little guys in. I'm going to let them come into my body. They're going to soak up all this stuff because 100 years ago, they'd soak all this stuff up because you were at the wrong stream at the wrong time drinking, and you got a little metal because the tectonic plate shifted or something. I don't know. But you get a little bit of extra metal in your body brings parasites in, it soaks up that metal. And then the parasites run out of food to eat because you don't have that toxin constantly coming in. So then your body excretes the parasite and you move on about your life. Today, though, in today's society, it's, oh, we're going to bring parasites in for these chemicals that we're getting. Oh, we're going to bring more parasites in because we got them tomorrow. And again, because you're putting the lotion all over your skin, you're putting the toxic shampoos on, you're putting the lead-lined lipstick on, you're
sitting in traffic,
sitting in traffic, breathing that air. You're in the house with the paint that's toxic. Everything is so toxic. Granted, you're drinking water, which, by the way, if you've never looked up the toxicity of your water, go to ewg.org. Look up the toxicity in your water. You will be just flabbergasted. You won't even understand. If somebody calls me from California and wants to work with me, at this point, it's just a game for me that I like to play with myself. I'll look at person's labs before I even look at their assessments and their history. I want to see if I can figure out what this person's dealing with first and where they're from without looking. In California, you're going to have radioactive elements, uranium in your body.
Yep.
And you're going to have probably arsenic. Those are the two things that I can almost guarantee because there's so much of it in the water supply.
Yeah.
So if you want to know why chronic illness is on the rise, just look at the stuff that is hitting us every single day. We're under assault.
Yeah, I think it's really well said. I'm so glad to hear you say how localized the toxicity can be as well, because I think people go into a state of despair when we talk about chemicals and toxins and other like root cause issues that we're unpacking in the summit. So you kind of have a couple of choices in front of you when you're just discovering this material, right? Because remember, we've got 3 buckets in our audience. We've got our newbies who are fully taking control of their health for maybe the first time. I'm not going to wait for my doctor anymore. Here I go. I'm going to charge into this stuff. And then we've got our, who we lovingly call our summit junkies, no more than their practitioners do. And they're just looking for that next nugget. And then we have the practitioners that are tired of crashing people and they want more tools. And it's so important to remember that you have more options in front of you than just, okay, toxins bad. Yeah. Okay. And then go into denial from there because you don't know what else to do. Or to swing the other way, my partner Michael did in the beginning. He would walk into our health food store, which was really clean compared to what is available in a normal grocery store. And he would say loudly as he walks from aisle to aisle, boys, and I'm like, oh my God, we have to live in this tiny town. And there is another way. There's a third way. And that is to get really curious about this stuff and treat this like become a detective. Like, what happens in my region? What have I been exposed to? What choices do I have control over? So in your mind, Jaban, what other choices do they have control over when it comes to these industrial chemicals?
So we have a choice over, and I'm going to go through a few things that I mentioned earlier. One, what water are we drinking? So if you can get clean water, we survive with water. The one thing you can't live very long without is water, air, and food. So let's start with those things. So water, what water should we drink? We want to make sure it's clean water. That's step one, because there's a lot of arguments about what water to drink. But for me, it's okay, I got to get it clean first. And then whether it's structured or alkaline or whatever else we want to do, mineralized, we'll get there. So step one, I drink distilled water because distilled water is the only way that I have found that I can remove radioactive elements and consistently see that change somebody's hair tissue mineral analysis. So we go with distilled water. From there, if you want mineralized water, you're going to have to re-add it because distilled water will remove literally everything out of the water because it evaporates it. So anything with a heavier melting temp than water that is going to stay in that tank. And by the way, I've done this. I have a distiller in my office. We distill our own water. And after a month, you have like a 1/4 inch of junk in the distiller pan, which is crazy. You're talking, we've ran through it, a gallon, 2 gallons a day for 30 days. So 60 gallons, you got a 1/4 inch of sediment in a box this big. That's a lot of stuff coming out of your drinking water.
Yeah.
So we distill it. From there, people want to mineralize, structure, and alkalize. I'm not a complete alkalization fan. I think there's a time and place for alkalization. I think there's a time and place for acidity. It just depends on what you're trying to do. Acidity will drive stuff in your tissues. Alkalinity can help if your body is acidic. So we just use that as needed based off of your need. Today's not the alkaline talk. As far as mineralization, I think personally, a lot of our minerals need to come from either plant-based or animal-based bound tissue. So it needs to come from something that is already covalently bonded to that. So what you're looking for is eat food to get your minerals, because if you're trying to get a mineral from a stream, we got mineral water from the stream, right? What does that mean? That means that rocks rolled down the stream, ran into each other, and then kept doing this until you got little tiny rocks. And then we drink little tiny rocks and we hope to absorb them. And I used to think that this was good. I would drink mineralized water myself. And I'm like, okay, but let me step back a second. We know in studies that food that is fortified does not change blood work. It does not get absorbed. That
Right.
stuff, it's like you put iron in cereal and it doesn't get absorbed. Those shards of iron doesn't work. So how is mineralizing water or river water or spring water any different? And I couldn't come to any conclusion outside of that. So that's just my opinion. So what I did come to the conclusion of is when I would use cell course minerals, which are fulvic and humic bound minerals, it would cause Herx reactions for some people, whereas regular minerals would not. So wait a minute, this is bound to where it can be driven into tissue. So if you're going to use remineralization, make sure that it is bound to either plant-based or animal-based bound minerals that you're going to be putting back in your water. So I do put CT minerals from Cellcore back into my water. But I also just like taking CT minerals because I feel like it increases my energy levels. And then structuring the water. There are many devices that structure water. Structured water, if you're wondering, my 3-second overview of this is water that has a structure like it has been running down a stream, which makes it more easily absorbable with your cellular tissue versus water that doesn't have any kind of structure to it, doesn't absorb as well into the body. And there's some quantum physics and reasoning behind this, but that's again for a whole nother podcast that I probably shouldn't be the one talking about because I know enough to know I like to do it, but I don't know enough to tell you all why. So I'll leave that to the Todd Wattses or something like that. So that's water, right? So we got clean water as step one, which is easy because you can buy distilled water from the store. Yes, it may be in plastic, but it's still better than radioactive water. So just take the step that you can take. And at least in Missouri, we're a little less expensive maybe than California. It's $1.39 for a gallon of water in plastic. And I'll take that any day over my tap water. I'll take that any day over any other filter that is not distilled. So that's just for me. It's not saying plastic is good for you. It's just, we got to take steps in that right direction. The next piece is food. Buy organic. If you can't afford organic, do the dirty dozen, which means you remove the most toxic foods, the top dozen from your diet, and you start there. You will never be chemical free in your food. It's just not possible unless you did all the raising of it yourself. So don't try to be a perfectionist. Just do the best you can. I eat organic as much as I can, of every food I can. Unless I'm out at a conference, it's not an option. I'm just like, you know what? My body's built to adapt. My body's built to detox when I give it opportunity. And I'm going to do a protocol a couple times a year for that stuff that it just doesn't get out as well. But if I live in fear, and it's only going to hurt me. And then the third thing is air. I can't control what's in the air driving down the highway, but I definitely can control what's in the air in my office and my home. So those are the areas that I'm going to focus on. So for me, you can buy some really amazing air filters that are upper echelon, very expensive. You can buy really cheap ones that probably just aren't going to cut it for some of those really micronized mycotoxins, which are from mold. So I went to the middle and I said, let me get the most bang for my buck. Now, if you have an unlimited budget, give my office a call. We'll tell you the super expensive stuff. But for what I do, air doctors, I did 3 air doctors for the price of one more expensive one. and I just have them placed throughout my home. And that significantly changed people that have come over and stay. I don't have a lot of allergies now because I've cleaned my body. I've got my immune system, my nervous system calmed down, but it's changed people's allergens pretty significantly because they come into my home as a clean space. Now you can deep dive even further into your home and use non-toxic paints. You can find non-toxic furniture. You do not want all this pressed board stuff because it's going to have a ton of formaldehyde in it.
Yeah,
But
that particle board, cheap furniture comes at a high cost, huh?
it does. But for most people, if we want to take simple steps, distilled water, organic food, air filter in your home, those are some huge steps that are going to decrease your toxic burden drastically. And then as you deep dive further along, you can start adding other pieces to your puzzle. You can start doing detoxification protocols. You can start working on getting rid of your parasites. But easy steps, almost anyone can start, is when you go to the store next time, if it does say organic on it, nope.
Perfect. I love it. That's a great place to start. So how about for our folks that these guys have a special place in my heart? Because Michael was one of them. He was one of those guys that was working on getting out parasites for years. And he would measure his progress for the day in terms of how many feet had he gotten out. And it's usually at least 10 feet of worms.
Oh, yeah.
And this is what happens. And so I like to tell some of these stories because I want people to know that they're not alone. We have some of the most genteel, lovely, elegant clients that are like secretly pulling stuff out and like taking photographs, and they have like their little parasite portfolio. It's like they need to know. We all want to have that proof in the toilet that we're making progress. But so for these guys that know that they have parasites and they've been working on them for some time and they're still going at it and they don't see progress, what can you share with them? Some places to start and where to look.
Oh, yeah. I can't tell you how many people have called. I've been pooping parasites for 2 years straight and I'm not feeling better. And I'm just like, okay. So here's the thing. I had a gentleman who was in my clinic and he pushed out 300 feet per month for months. And this guy's a scary book novelist. So this is just like, he just is so entertained, having so much fun. But he was extraordinarily extraordinarily complicated case because he was very sensitive. So we tried all kinds of strategies to get him on antimicrobials that would be able to knock this stuff out. And he would react so poorly. And even people that don't react poorly. But this guy came in on a walker at the age of 30, couldn't get down the hallway all the way, which was 80 feet, had to sit down. We had to roll him in a rolly chair to my office. And then to help him to detox, I gave him some movement protocols, like just flap your arms. And then he couldn't stand up. So he just kick his leg laying in bed. That's as much as he could do because he was so beat from parasites and other things that were hitting him with Lyme and otherwise. He was diagnosed with B6 toxicity. That's what they told him. Oh, yeah, just don't eat B6 for a couple of years. You'll be okay. This is a nerve problem, too much B vitamins. No, this was a methylation issue because of all the toxicities in his body issue. But after a couple of years of working with this guy, still pushing parasites out. It was because he could tolerate parasite protocols. He could not tolerate bacteria and mold and these other things. So I came up with something called the pulse method for this guy. And I've shared that before on summits and doctors' trainings where we pulse into things so somebody can get in it. What I have found is if you're just going after parasites, I don't care if you're doing Sharkman's protocol, doing multiple medications at the same time with herbs for 2 straight years of parasites, and you still see them coming out, which I've seen people do this. It's because you're missing the boat. Parasites are not the cause for you anymore. You've done all you can do for those parasites. I don't work on parasites for more than usually 2 protocols, which is roughly a good dose for 30 days each protocol. So roughly 2 months plus whatever buildup phases we've got to do. So within the first 3 months with somebody, I'm done with parasites for the initial burst. I'm moving on to whatever else we can see. You've got to be able to remove mold. You've got to be able to remove radioactive elements. You got to be able to remove metal. I can tell you this. I've gotten, depending upon the person's problem, this gentleman, it was mold. When we got to mold, he kicked out, we were doing nothing with parasites anymore. He kicked out balls. Like he had the most parasites come out by footage when we treated mold of any other protocol, because there was so much mold suppressing his mitochondria that when that was pulled away, his body was like, expel everything. Which, by the way, if this is you, be very careful, because when it goes to expel everything, sometimes you herx, not because of anything we're doing, because your body's getting stronger. It's just, I want it out now. And sometimes your body doesn't really go, oh, you've got to work tomorrow, I'm going to slow it down. It's, I want it out yesterday.
Yeah, let's take a
Taking
look
it
at that
out.
calendar before we decide what we're going to excrete. No, there's no calendar function.
No. So fortunately with him, we'd been working together long enough. He knew how to coffee enema and Castro pack and sauna, and he felt it coming up. And when he saw that, he went and started executing some of our, what happens when you were about to hurt. And he was able to get through that. But yeah, I mean, if you've got somebody that consistently sees the same problem, whether it's metal taste in the mouth, they smell like mold when they're sweating, they're pushing out parasites, and they're continuing the same protocols or the same direction, switch gears, go somewhere else. What are you missing? Is it trauma? Do you have PTSD? Did you have a bad childhood? Do you need to deal with those things before your body's going to take the next step? If you see the same problem over and over, it's not because you aren't hitting it with a high enough dose most of the time. Most of the time, people have tried higher doses, different things, different routes, different homeopathics versus herbs versus meds. Most of the time, it's you're missing the boat. I had one client who went to everybody that was good. I literally looked at her list of docs. I'm like, I don't even know if I fit in this category of like how good these people are. Like, I watched them on Instagram, but then I ran a bunch of testing and nobody had checked for radioactive elements. I switched their water.
Common oversight. Yeah.
And there were 7 family members in this family I started working with. 3 got better from that. And then I was able to start making progress with the other ones because I finally removed the last hitch. They'd already covered black mold, which was a major problem for them. They'd already done Lyme and parasite and trauma. And I was just like, when I was looking at all of the labs and all of the docs, I was like, okay, I don't want to continue to hit my head against the wall doing everything they've already done. What has been missed? And we just started looking at that. And when we found it, shoot. But that's the key is I tell people, I want to know everything you've done before so that I don't repeat the same process and give you the same result, which is you're here. So failure. I also don't completely trust everything else every other practitioner's done either. So it's like, I take that into consideration, but then I also look at you brand new and then we put all of that together as what's going on. It's so much of just interviewing the client and going, how'd you feel during these protocols? Did you feel like you were hurt? Did you feel like you were pushed? Was it too hard? Was it too gentle? And if I ask somebody, did you ever treat this or that? And they're like, I have no idea. I'm like, so it probably wasn't that hard because there was no communication and you didn't feel bad from it.
How in depth was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. These are really great points. And I think people are getting a lot of gems out of it, which I so appreciate because I know for me, when I was on my journey, it was quite the frustrating path to be the mystery patient, right?
It is. Being the mystery patient can be almost heartbreaking because clients come to me after 20 years with no answers. And then they just want to feel better. I just tell people, like, have hope. We're going to get to the bottom of this. It's going to take time. And I run quite a bit of labs on people to give them at least an idea of what's going on at the start, even though I like to do other things too. Assessments are absolutely a huge piece. The interview part is a massive piece. People sometimes get annoyed with me. They're like, I typed this out for you. I'm like, I know, but I want to listen to you say it because I seem like I always pick up more details. And then we create that roadmap to health and put together, yes, radioactive elements for that family was at the top, but then we had to revisit some of these other things that were still not taken care of because that radioactive element still kept them sick.
I see that all the time. That's such a great point. We had a wonderful woman who came through our practice who started out by saying, I'm unfixable, just so you know. I've seen everybody. And she was actually a health author herself. And she felt really out of integrity because she was sharing solutions for the conditions that she specialized in, but she couldn't fix herself. And first of all, no one is unfixable, right? So anybody listening that feels that way, just so you know, the body's brilliant. It's never too late. It knows exactly what to do if you support it in the right order. She said, I'm unfixable. She hadn't slept in 35 years. She was on crazy high thyroid doses. Her hair was falling out. She said, but I've already done the mold stuff. She was obsessed with mold. She's mold. I did it all. I did it all. I did it all. I've done every mold protocol there is. She's on some of our mutually favorite brands. And okay, I know you have radiation and I haven't even looked at your labs yet. But it turned out she also had a fresh exposure to mold.
Ah,
And she didn't know it. So she had a leaky roof that created a lot of water damage right over her bedroom. It was seeping down into her master closet. and she didn't know it until we asked her to look again. These things have stages.
They do. And you've always got to keep an open mind, and creating a safe space is so key. I always talk to people about in my starter kit, here are all the crazy things I've seen happen. Not even all of them. Here's a lot of the things I've seen. Let's rule out all these things. Think about education. As we have an email series that goes out, like just hits people with all these different topics before they even see me and then after they see me, because who knows, maybe we missed it on the call. Maybe it just didn't come up, but it's creating this safe place that allows you to be capable of healing has to be done. And so often that is missed.
So true. Really well said. I would love for you to help our practitioners listen in the audience. Any last gems that you would share with them to encourage them to look deeper, and where can they start if they have those general functional medicine detox tools and they're tired of crashing people and they'd like to take a step into deeper work?
Yeah. So over the last probably 6 to 12 months, I've really done a deep dive. It's probably been a couple of years I've been on this, but deep dive the last year, what I'm calling autoimmune PTSD, which is nervous system related. This is why do people walk into my clinic and they're allergic to everything, or their allergies rotate, or even water could trigger them, herbs, homeopathics, stress environments. And I'm termed autoimmune PTSD because it just, people understand to some degree what that means. You think about this person that has been to war and they come back and they hear a firecracker and they have this huge reaction to it because the last time a big loud noise went off, or the one that they remember the most, it was life threatening. So they run, or they tuck and cover, or this chills up their spine and they almost want to lock up. Your immune system can be the same way. And most people don't understand this, that if you lived in mold, it's traumatic to your immune system. If you have had childhood trauma, if you've been in an environment where your body does not feel safe for long enough, it can get stuck there. So it's a PTSD reaction from your immune system. So then you're attacking everything. So if you're running into clients like this, is unfortunately not all that uncommon anymore. I see this all the time where people have to start with their nervous system, not detox and drainage, not antimicrobials, not B vitamins, not all of these other things, because they literally can't take any of it. They have to start with calming the nervous system, whether that's vagus nerve retraining, which is pretty common and popular, limbic retraining, which there's a lot of good tools out there for that, whether it's Gupta, DNRS, or Primal Trust. There's several good tools out there. There's many more that I probably haven't even heard of yet. Or neurofeedback, which has been absolutely a game changer in my clinic. I actually got this because I'd get people 80, 95%, and there'd be a little bit of something left. Like, for instance, somebody I worked with was like, I feel great. I have energy. I don't hurt. I have a great job. I have a great marriage. I've got kids. The guy was like, I'm feeling amazing, except for I'm depressed. I was just like, that doesn't make any sense to me. But let's figure this out. I was at a conference, I saw some tools and I tried it out. And then one of my staff did it with me that was there. She had some depression issues and it helped her. So I bought the machine. Another thing to add to my practice that I probably didn't need. At least I had no plan for. I didn't know I needed it, and brought it home, and I got this guy on it, and his depression started to fade. And I'm like, oh, so you got brain wave patterns that are not associated with current state, but that are ingrained habits. Just if you learn to throw the baseball sidearm and you go to high school and your coach is like, hey, you got to throw it overhand, it takes some training. You have to retrain your body's motor pattern. We got to retrain your brain's pattern. If you've been through trauma and it's trained into a traumatic pattern and has these walls up, and you're reacting so negatively to something that, again, like a firecracker versus a bomb, right? You should not have the same response. It's not that your response isn't valid. It's that it's an over response due to the trauma you've been through. So if we can lessen this for so many of the people we work with, whether it's from mold or childhood abuse or other things, now all that energy that goes into this fight or flight response can be shifted away from the fight or flight response and into the healing mitochondria, making energy, modulating the immune system. And now all of a sudden your results of healing increase tenfold for some people. And it could be as dramatic as I had a client come into my clinic. She flew in, and in 1 week is what we usually do this in. So people are actually starting to refer to us because we'll do it in 1 week. And she did 10 sessions in 1 week. When she came here, she took a fourth of a capsule of a lymph supplement, like a lymph drainage supplement, and had a major reaction. When she left, she took 4 and had 0 reaction. When she came here, she could only eat a few foods, and she was terrified of eating. When she left, she added 12 new foods back like that, and just left and right, and it didn't cause any reactions. So it's not that huge of a change for everybody, but it will help to calm people down. So if you can get your nervous system calmer, it allows for faster results, faster movement, less herxes, more energy, better quality of life. And neurofeedback, limbic retraining, vagus nerve, and there's several other techniques that can be helpful, are all amazing to add into your protocols.
It's a beautiful summary right there of what people go through, and also a testament to how we really still retain the capacity to heal, even if all evidence points otherwise in the short term.
Absolutely. A statement that I like to make is the human body is amazing at adapting to survive. It's awful at getting rid of that adaptation to thrive.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that's so true.
So if you've ever had to adapt for anything, for any reason, whether it's infections, toxins, traumas, you probably still have so many of those adaptations in your nervous system, in your body, and you need to retrain out of those because those adaptations are no longer beneficial for you and they may be taking from you. It's not to say that if something bad happened, you shouldn't learn from it. But if you've created the safe place, safe situation now, you probably don't need to always be looking over your shoulder at all times.
Yeah, that's so true. I had a really hard time getting out of that myself. I'm an assault survivor and went through 11 car accidents. And I would walk into a coffee shop and feel completely overstimulated. And I would also, if a man even glanced my way, I would start to go into a physical state of feeling under attack. Even if I was like, he's here with his kid, it's fine. He's not going to find me in the alley. It's going to be okay. But I had a really hard time training out of that. And I used a lot of nervous system tools you just listed as a part of the healing journey. So thank you so much for highlighting those today. This is a wonderful, broad, sweeping interview. Do you want to leave our wonderful audience with any last thoughts from you?
I always like to end these conversations with just have hope. I've seen hundreds, if not thousands of people overcome what seemed like insurmountable mountains in their lives because they just kept taking one step forward.
Mm.
And you may feel like you get knocked back, but if you continue to move forward, you will reach the summit. And when you know why you're climbing that mountain, you are going to succeed. And for me, the why was my mother, was my future family. And today my why is every other person that is stuck in the positions that I was in. So I keep going every day. I keep researching every day. So know your why and just keep moving. Never let anything stop you from just taking a step forward. It doesn't have to be a leap. It just has to be a shuffle and you're going to get there. Just keep moving forward.
That's so beautifully said. Thanks so much for your contribution to the space, Dr. Jaban. And it was so fun to have this in-depth conversation with you today. Where can folks find you?
So I've got Instagram, Facebook, website, even a TikTok, Dr. Jaban Moore.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for listening. Go to detoxrejuvenation.com to find the links in the show notes to everything we covered in this episode. Please subscribe, review, and share with other humans who need this precious information. Let's help each other. Until next time, love, Sinclair.